Wait, did I ever tell you about that? I don't know if I've shown you this, but I have a picture from one of my foster homes where we're like in the mountains and we were fishing, and I'm literally looking. Everyone's looking at the camera, smiling, and I'm like this.
And you're probably just in your own world.
I was. It was probably a butterfly, and I was like, "Wow, look at the butterfly!" And then I just
Why a butterfly?
looked like I was.
You were a homo since birth. That's for sure.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome
you for that news. Thank you for that jazz.
And all that jazz.
What are we doing?
We have to do our intro.
Oh, we have a podcast. That's what we're doing. We're podcasting
Because
today.
we normally just sit here and talk to each other.
Think that people would
microphones?
actually be interested in hearing us talk, or are they like, shut the fuck up?
I'm sure a little bit of both.
Welcome to Homocide, the podcast. I'm Kevin.
And I'm Brandon.
And hi. Hello.
Hello. Are you going to go? Are you going to do the actual intro?
Welcome to Homocide, the podcast, which I already did. And I said my name.
Are you forgetting where we are?
I am.
We're at the top of the show.
So basically, not today, I'm lost. Okay, Homicide the Podcast is your new favorite podcast. True crime podcast. I am a mess today.
You are.
Why don't you take this one.
It's the two old fashions you had this afternoon at lunch.
It's probably
delicious,
delicious pecan old fashions. And if you've never had that, you're missing out. But yes, Homicide the Podcast is your new favorite gay true crime podcast. Can we still call ourselves new? Because we are like
this is episode 18
episodes in.
I mean, I think we could call ourselves new.
I also said that aggressively. I was like, 18.
I think we could call ourselves new if we want to call ourselves new.
Okay, I'm going to reframe this. Homicide the Podcast is your favorite gay true crime podcast hosted by your favorite two homosexuals. We should be your favorite. Who, and this is just a statement of health, who feel like probiotics, therapy, and chocolate matter in your life.
Sure.
So take that how you will. Yep. Okay. What can your story be described as today,
That was
Brent?
such
Zero judgment.
a wonderful, wonderful intro. Thank you for that. I'm glad we got through it.
Thank you.
My story today is on the only woman on Tennessee's death row.
Tennessee. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, mine can be described as something bad, something gross, and something scary.
Okay.
And that is not my title, but
It never
that's
is.
what can be described as. So today's episode 18. Oh my
I know, I can't believe it's
goodness
18 already.
gracious. And this episode is titled Fuck Satan, Eat a Banana.
Again, the titles for this episode are just
Do you
very
remember last
interesting.
night when we were sitting on the couch super high and I was like, oh my God, the episode should be called Fuck Satan, Eat a Banana. And I laughed hysterically and then looked at you and you were just staring at me
like
I was
why?
a piece of
Why
poo.
a banana?
Bananas are full of potassium. They're very good for you.
I just didn't see the correlation. I liked
I
my
don't-
title better.
What was your title?
I don't remember.
Yeah, exactly. Mine's
It was better
I
than
almost said mine's
me.
memorable.
Admittedly better. I did say, I think one of them that I said was sincerely Satan. Oh, inspired by Satan is what I said.
That's so lame.
You're lame.
Fuck
Go eat a
Satan.
banana.
I will do that.
Go eat a banana.
I'm going to eat lots of bananas all day. I'm going to be rich in potassium,
I'm so
rich in
excited for
vitamins, which we say vitamins, by the way. We don't say vitamins. Brendan and I take a daily dose of vitamins. And of those vitamins, potassium is not one. So we get that from our bananas.
you. Or bananas.
Yep.
We'll go
Banana.
eat a banana.
Eat a banana. I'm going to shove a banana in your butt. Okay, anyway.
no,
Just
okay.
kidding. I won't.
Just don't eat that banana, preferably.
Some people probably would.
I'm sure they would.
sure there's some
no
sort of-
judgment if that's your thing.
There's probably
but
some
it's
sort of
not-
porn out there where somebody's sticking a banana up somebody's butthole and
I'm
eating it up.
certain there are videos
Gross.
out there of people doing that.
And
it's
we've
like
lost all of our followers.
right. It's like
so.
it's like that Blippy guy who was like, yeah, he was like that kid's. He was the kids TV like YouTuber.
I don't think Blippy. Wait, maybe it was.
No, it was, and he like had a video
shit
out there
on
where he
somebody's
was
chest or something.
Yeah,
right?
he shot. I don't know. I didn't watch it. It was gross.
Which if okay, let's talk about this because there is something called scat play.
Ooh, yeah.
Which is when you play with each other's papoos.
Papoos.
Which we do not do.
No.
But
Thank you.
Yeah, I can't get behind it. But if you do it, that's great. It's great for you.
This is a judgment-free zone.
Yeah, I'm not. I am. Nope, I am.
I'm
But
judging.
I'm trying my best not to. But yeah, everyone has their own fantasies.
This episode's going real weird already.
And it really is. This is why we shouldn't be alone.
I know.
Or maybe people are like, they're funny. I don't know. I think so. But these are the conversations Brandon and I have on our own when we're not recording.
No, and for some reason we decided to put microphones in front of our faces to
So
have
you
these
could
conversations.
enjoy these conversations in this long-winded intro. So Brandon, how are you?
I am doing great.
What's new?
I don't know.
Have you eaten a banana today?
I have not eaten a banana today. Thank you.
Well, have you shat on somebody's chest today?
I have not done that yet.
Thank you.
I mean,
Yet.
the day is still early. It's only 5:36. Who knows what'll happen?
The day
but
is young. Is it really 5:36?
it is on the day that the podcast should have come
was
out.
supposed to be released. So
Sorry, friends.
it'll
We're
be
a
out
day
tomorrow.
late.
And $1 short. Wonder what that saying comes from.
I don't know. It's probably
a day late and $1 short.
it probably ends up being something awful because all of those
I know they're
sayings
usually
turn into
based in like
sayings.
some sort of racist type of, yeah, Jesus H Christ. That's also probably something. Okay, so life is good, right?
Yeah, like
You're doing good.
nice.
I do realize that like the last few episodes we have not had Marty because, well, I don't know why. So we were having her picture.
I know.
Remember?
It is back behind us.
It is back
You just
behind
can't
us.
see it.
Yeah. So Marty's spirit is abound. Okay. Well, I'm glad your life is great.
How's your life
Thank
going?
you for asking me. I was waiting to have your interest in me. This is our marriage. I am so interested in Brandon. And then he's like,
Shut up.
thank you. And that's it.
It's so not true.
I'm fine. Thank you.
Okay, great. So glad we got that out of the fucking way.
Oh no. Yeah, we I don't know. We got your Jeep back today. We lent our Jeep to one of our team members who got in a car accident. So we've been without Brandon's little Wrangler for a month.
It is breaking news.
It's breaking.
It's
it
the
is
most
breaking news.
important thing.
But also our team member is so sweet. She went and got it cleaned and
Yeah, it was super nice.
It was really, it's super sweet. So I mean, we lent it to her for a month, so that's the least you could do. Just kidding.
Shut the fuck up.
kidding. I'm kidding.
She's
Savannah,
gonna
I
listen
love
to this
you.
in office and be like,
she's gonna be road. I love you. You know that. But anyway, yeah, no, feeling good. We've been in Tampa for a hot minute, and I'm definitely missing New York a little bit.
"Oh
but-
yeah, me too."
yeah, but we'll be back up there soon at our apartmento. And but it's great to be back here at the agency, and we've had some really big kind of campaigns that we're working on and all that kind of stuff. So it's been nice to be back at our agency in general. So
And it has been, but it's been like ridiculously busy.
yeah, we've
So
been no complaining at all. We are
No,
so
not at all.
incredibly fortunate and thankful to have such a successful business and amazing clients. And yeah, I have no qualms there, certainly. But you know, I've definitely worked until midnight several times.
it'd be great with like a little nap.
Yeah, or like a good bowel movement without thinking about work. But instead, I'm like going through my email while I'm taking a shit.
I mean, it's better than thinking about scat play while taking the shit.
I have never in my life thought of that, other than to be like, ew.
Gross.
Yeah, which again,
To each their own.
yeah, wasn't there? I was reading. What did I read about somebody loving to be thrown up on?
Oh, you're reading that? That book. What
It's
was
a
it
great
called?
book,
Boy Slut?
actually. Yeah, Boy Slut. Really, really great book. In general, but there was a section where he like divulges that one of his fantasies is like somebody going down on him and like choking and throwing up, which yeah, you. But
Yeah, I'm not
for me.
Any kind of bodily fluids, anything that comes out of your body, I don't need to be a part of.
Now, have you been peed on before?
I have not been peed on before.
Do not ask me that question.
I'm not going to ask you that question.
Because I
My
have.
parents watch this.
I know somebody
Just
has
kidding.
peed on me before, and they will never do it again. And that somebody was Brandon. Oh Jesus!
Oh, so
I might
now
edit
I'm
that out.
sufficiently uncomfortable.
You are wrong. I could tell. gotten a little red.
It was awkward, and we don't need to talk about it on a podcast. So
And that's the only thing we're going to tell you. Your parents probably think we play with each other's poop or something, but we don't. So that's
I'm sure they don't even think about us playing with each other.
Non-negotiable. We do have non-negotiables in our life, and that's one.
Yeah, no poop, no throw up.
No, yeah, no, and no pee. Honestly.
Anyways,
Yeah.
back to murder.
All right, I'm glad your life is great. Okay, so if you're still with us, hopefully you are, please remember to subscribe. Watch us on YouTube if you like to see stupid facial expressions and us. I don't know. We are on YouTube at Homocide the Podcast. So go give us a little subscribe. But then also please follow us and rate and review.
Yes,
please rate and review. If you are listening, which we have lots of listeners, like out of the country, in the country.
Right. I feel like our
numbers are
audience
kind of
in
going up.
Australia is growing, which is pretty exciting.
Which we do love some Australian men. So if that's you, hi.
Leave us a review. Why is my mic not working?
Oh. And then Brandon, he went away.
How long has that not been working?
It's been working. I've heard
Okay.
you. Yeah. Don't you worry.
Thank you.
The
so
P
much.
made it in.
I'm so grateful.
Just kidding. Yeah, no, we have some Australians.
Yeah.
Which I can't do an Australian accent other than saying, that's not a knife. That's all I can do. So if you are one of those lovely people, please say hello and rate and review us. But anybody, yes, please. We would love to hear from you, hear what you think about the podcast. So please send us some information. Or / rate and review. Information on what?
I don't, your Homotown murders, of course.
That would be amazing. Yes. Email us your Homotown murder, and then you could be on the podcast with us and
Yeah.
tell us. And actually, we're going to have somebody on soon.
Yeah, we have a few people that
Yeah.
have been saying they're going to get it to us.
For like months.
A few.
Rude.
We won't call you out.
Brianna.
Or we will.
Andrew. Hillary will be doing one. Yeah.
And
Anyway.
Julia said he's going to do one too.
Julius did say we just had. Oh my God! It was Pride this weekend.
It was Pride
in Tampa. Which, if you don't know Tampa, it's actually a pretty great city in general. But the gay community is pretty awesome here. So we went to Pride, and actually we brought your parents.
We did, which was
For
a lot
the
of fun.
first time, and it was really, really. It was so awesome, and how fortunate that we get to experience that with your parents as somebody who's married to you, but also as your parents. It's a lot of people don't get to experience that.
I
so.
completely agree.
It's pretty awesome. But we did see Julius. And if you aren't familiar with Julius, which I don't know how you would be, but now you will be, follow him on social. He is Walking with Julius. He's on a journey of health, and he is awesome. And he'll be on the podcast soon.
Yeah.
And we actually had a mini version of a podcast before where we used to talk a lot of shit called
We
So Basic
did.
Podcast with him.
And our friend Marissa.
And Marissa, and Jason was on. And...
Yeah, now that's not
And
around
that
anymore.
doesn't exist. So here we are. Anyway, okay. So today's episode: fuck Satan, eat a banana.
Yeah.
Brandon, I think you go first today.
I do, and I'm excited because I like my story.
Yeah.
However, when I looked it up, it sounded like it was more satanic than it actually is. So that's why mine's more inspired by Satan.
Okay.
But it's still a really good story.
So you wanted to make a title.
I mean,
that
it's an interesting
was
story.
more about you, without thinking about others.
I mean, of course.
Yeah. All right. Well, story of our life.
I'm sorry. You also said that yours is lighter on the Satan side. That's why I said inspired by
Should we now, instead of saying Satan, call him Satan?
Satan. Not to be confused by
Satan. Which
to all of our
is-
vegan friends out there.
Yes, delicious alternative to meat. Satan. But Satan is different than Satan.
Satan.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So instead we're saying fuck Satan, eat a banana.
You're so gay.
We're dumb. All right.
You did all that.
You're welcome for this excitement in your life.
I appreciate you so much.
What would your life be without me?
really boring?
I'm sure if you asked some people, they'd be like, he would be better.
Same for you though, love.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It would be better. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
I mean, we could end it.
You're my wow.
And today is the last episode of
And on Homicide the
Homicide.
podcast, the two husbands hosting got divorced. Great. No, oh my God. Okay.
Not yet.
We have literally just talked bullshit for the last 15 minutes.
We
so
have.
if you're still here, thank you.
We appreciate
We
you.
do.
Because that
And
just got real weird.
it did. It did. And we're here for that. Yeah. So if you would like to start,
I'm down.
I think that would be great. And then if you're still hanging on, here is your first murder.
Murder.
Wasn't there a song that was like murder?
Yeah.
It
was really
I don't
good.
know. I don't remember it. Okay. God, I have ADHD, clearly.
And it's like in full force right now.
Well, I was in the sun and I had cocktails. And here we are. So, Brandon,
Lucky for all of
I
our
need
friends
to
listening.
shut the fuck up and you need to go. Okay.
I mean, if you would allow me.
Go.
Okay. All right. So have you ever heard of Job Corps?
I have. My sister was in Job Corps.
Of course.
Yeah, it's where she met her, 6 husbands ago. Yeah, it's where she met my niece and nephew's dad, actually, in Roswell, New Mexico.
Yeah, I don't know if I knew that. I was expecting you to say no.
Oh, no, yeah, I totally know what that is.
Okay, so for those who don't know what Job Corps is, so according to Google, Job Corps provides low-income young adults with free training to jumpstart their careers. Job Corps is the nation's largest free residential career training and education program for eligible people age 16 to 24. So it's basically a federally funded technical training and educational program that helps disadvantaged youth, and it targets troubled teens and tells them that they can help turn their lives around by joining the program. So students live in dorms on campus and take classes in industries like manufacturing, healthcare, construction, homeland security, and hospitality, and more.
Homeland security.
I thought that was a weird one, but I took that right from their website.
Okay.
However, there's a lot of stories out there that are really positive and good stories. However, there's also ones that are out there that talk about Job Corps as a hotbed for criminal activity. And it sounds a lot like a documentary that we just watched on Netflix called it's called the program Cons, Cults, and Kidnapping. And it dives into the troubled teen industry,
Which this one was, that one was about the school that was up in New England, right? Like not too far
it was
from New York
in,
City.
yeah, why am I forgetting the name?
It was in upstate New York.
It was in upstate New York, but they have locations throughout the U.S.
Yeah, it's part of this big conglomerate, I think that's the right word, of schools that are, it's like a moneymaker for troubled youth, for their parents to go and send them in there. But it's like a huge cult really targeting the parents of those kids. Yeah, I think Paris Hilton was in one.
She was in one. She
Yeah.
was in one like Provo something.
Something like that. I can't remember the one of the other night. But this documentary that Brandon just mentioned, go watch it. It is incredible. I mean,
It was called Ivy Ridge Academy.
Oh my Lord. Yeah, Ivy Ridge. I just said, oh my Lord. Ivy Ridge. Yeah. So, and my other sister, Kim, my biological sister, Kim, she was in one in Colorado, not related to the same owners, but she was at one in
It was
Colorado.
for the troubled teen industry.
Yeah, it was the trouble team, which is huge. But she was at one called Excelsior in Aurora, Colorado.
Yeah.
So,
And it's, I mean, from the stories that these women tell, it's a really awful, an awful industry that shouldn't really exist.
Sure.
And it just takes advantage, and it's basically a place for abusers to get away with abusing children, which is
I actually
awful.
remember something on the documentary where they were like, schools like that are the perfect place for pedophiles to go.
Oh, yeah.
Because they can actually go and rape and molest kids and
And then
get away from
manipulate
it
everybody
because-
around them.
And because they're not regulated.
Yeah.
These schools are not regulated, which is fucked high elected officials. Can we
Right.
do something about that?
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyway.
So again, I did see a lot of stories and opinions that came out that that Job Corps did help them and that they were there to help. However, this story is based on one that seems as to be a bad experience. So I wanted to add that little caveat into the story before I got into it. So
Yeah.
on January 12th of 1995, an argument broke out at the now closed Job Corps Center in Knoxville, Tennessee, between 19-year-old Colleen Selmer, and 18-year-old Christa Pike over 17-year-old Tadaryl Shipp. Christa and Tadaryl were dating for some time.
Wait, his name was Tadaryl?
Yes, it's spelled Tadaryl. Tadaryl.
Tadaryl. Okay.
Yeah. So they started dating, and they started dabbling together in the occult and devil worship.
Goodness.
Right. And then together, along with their friend Shadola, it said that they started to get more interested in Satanism. And a lot of people said that they practice Satanism.
To Daryl and Shadola?
Yep. To Daryl, Shadola, and Christa.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So oftentimes they would also be overheard talking in the halls about participating in a human sacrifice. Yeah.
No.
Well, eventually, Christa started to believe that Colleen wanted to be with Daryl. There were rumors that she was flirting with him, and that she wanted to steal him from Christa, and she wasn't really having it. It was even quoted that she told Daryl that little whore has to be taught a lesson. Yeah.
Lord.
Yeah. So
these are teenagers?
These are teenagers, yeah, in this Job Corps program. So on January 12th, Christa and her friend Shadola Peterson, devised a plan to confront Colleen. But this wasn't like your normal, like, hey, I want to confront you about this. This is premeditated planning.
Well, and ultimately, like these schools, there are troubled teens in there. So there's
100%.
definitely levels of aggression and violence that I think, permeates those.
Yeah.
Those
and
spaces,
it's marketed towards people who have dropped out of high
Troubled
school,
youth,
kids who are dropped or got kicked out of their homes or needed a fresh start as an idea that they would help.
But then they're in a fairly abusive environment, so they're just supported in there.
Yeah.
Instead of healing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez. Anyway.
So the plan would start off with a peace offering. So with the guise of wanting to make amends, the ladies asked Colleen to join them in a shared weed break at the abandoned steam mill that was on the property of the school. Within a close walking distance from the main campus, the mill offered a secluded place hidden in woods away from others. So Colleen agreed, and she signed out of the dorm alongside Christa, Shadola, and Daryl, and they all proceeded into the woods. What Colleen didn't know...
Into the woods. Stop. Anyway, sorry.
It's not that kind of woods. What Colleen didn't know was Christa didn't have just weed on her. She also made sure to grab a box cutter and a small meat cleaver on their way out.
Wait.
Yeah, a meat cleaver. It's such a it's such a distinct.
But
knife.
Where did you get a meat cleaver?
Well, I mean, part of Job Corps are the
they're
different.
Working in the
yep,
trade,
they're working in the trades, and culinary is one. And I believe Daryl was in culinary. Yeah. So before I go any further, I wanted to shift gears a bit and give some insight into Christa. So, to say that Christa had a normal upbringing would be like the farthest from the truth.
Sure.
So she was born in 1976 to parents Carissa Hansen and Emil Glenn Pike in Beckley, West Virginia. And Christa had a very traumatic upbringing. Born with brain damage and malformation of the brain based on alcohol abuse of her pregnant mother. Even the times before she was born could be said to have set her up for what she would turn into. So with seizures as an infant, the signs of fetal alcohol spectrum disorder were ever present. And just after 2 short years of life, her parents, who had a tumultuous relationship, called it quits after Carissa was found to be cheating. However, from what I read, whether they were together or apart, the couple was very physically and emotionally abusive to Christa.
Yeah.
I even saw a quote from an aunt who mentioned seeing Christa in quotes, crawling around through piles of dog stool all over the house. So I think that gives a really big picture into what she was living in.
Sure.
So, however, the abuse didn't only lie in her parents. So for one, it was reported that at the age of 9, she was sexually assaulted by a neighbor. She also had a really strong relationship with her grandmother. However, it's reported that her grandmother's boyfriend had potentially abused her for years. And when she was 13, it turned into sexual assault. The trauma built throughout the years, eventually developing bipolar disorder and post-traumatic stress syndrome. And at the age of 12, it drove her to even have a failed attempted suicide by trying to overdose on Tylenol.
Not good.
Yeah, so she already has gone through quite some shit.
Yeah,
So
sure.
after some time, the assault from her grandmother's boyfriend, child services stepped in and removed Christa from the house. However, just 3 months later, she was returned back to the same house, which made her feel like no one was there to help her. Then by the age of 17, Christa was sexually assaulted again by a stranger.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Which I do think. So was she a little bit? Did she have a mental disability then?
For sure. She had a lot. She had a lot of different things. And so I even read one piece that said, even after she was diagnosed with some of these things, she didn't have the support at home to follow through with anything. So she never found anybody to help her because nobody was there to help guide her.
Yeah. And I think it's worth noting that sexual assault happens a lot on people, on disabled people.
Yeah.
And like, regardless of the level of that, because even my biological mom, who is, she's deaf, but, and there's a lot there, but, she had always kind of spoken about sexual assaults that happened to her. And there's a lot that goes into that. But I do know in a sense that oftentimes women with disability are targeted for sexual assault.
Yeah.
And it's sick. So first off, it's all sick, but this targeted, with these people, it's just, ugh. Anyway, okay.
So, struggling with school, Chris eventually dropped out of high school, and with her free time, she started to act out even more. She was already drinking and partying and all of that kind of stuff, and she eventually got detained for shoplifting. And by 1994, Christa was trying to figure out what to do, so she just decided to join the local Job Corps and train to be a nurse, just like her mother. However, according to an article I read on a site called Mercy for Christa, which I'll get into later, she didn't know what was in store for her. The program was full of violence, and allegedly students would walk around with razor blades for protection, which only caused her trauma from childhood to get even worse. So eventually, Christa met Tadero, who was studying culinary arts, and from the beginning, they were a match, which ended up making them get into trouble more than anything else because of their relationship.
Yeah.
So back to the night of January 12th, 1995, the group signed out of the dorms. And they made their way into the woods. Pretty soon into their walk, when Christa realized that no one would be able to see them, she immediately kind of went at Colleen, asking her questions and accusing her of trying to sleep with Tadero, all of which Colleen denied, which only angered Christa more. So this is where the trigger warning should come in because it gets a little graphic. It's not too crazy, but it is a little graphic. So quickly, Christa got angry as she felt that Colleen was lying. She grabbed Colleen and kneed her in the face. She then grabbed the meat cleaver and sliced Colleen in the stomach. Tadero then gashed her across the chest, which I read that in a news article. So I had to look up what does gashed actually means. It's basically just stabbed her in the chest, but pretty deep, I guess.
With the box cutter, I'm assuming?
It didn't say which.
Okay. Isn't a meat cleaver like the pounder? Or
yeah, whatever? It's like the bigger metal one, but this was a small version of that. So it was a small, a meat cleaver is like a wider
Got it. Okay, yeah.
piece of metal.
Got it. Okay, yeah.
Like squarish, rectanglish.
Yeah.
So all happening quickly, Colleen cried out and begged them to stop. However, they didn't. Using the box cutter, they proceeded to mutilate Colleen's body. They even carved a pentagram into her chest with the meat cleaver, which the media went wild with and drove this narrative, them being a demonic teenage killer, even more because when you carve a pentagram, it's seen as a satanic kind of ritual.
Why would you do that?
Well, exactly. So for about 30 to 40 minutes, both Christa and Tadero went at it as Shadola watched as a lookout. So by the time the duo started to get tired, Colleen was still alive, covered in over 300 wounds and bleeding out. Christa, out of exhaustion, anger, and whatever else she was feeling at the time, grabbed a chunk of asphalt nearby. So she went over then to Colleen, lifted it up, and drove it down repeatedly onto Colleen's head, killing Colleen after nearly an hour of torturing her. Then the three got up, covered up her body in leaves, and then went to a nearby gas station to wash up. They dumped a box of Colleen's belongings, like her ID, and headed back to the dorms around 11 p.m. However, before they left, Christa made sure to grab a fragment of Colleen's skull as a souvenir.
Ew.
Yep, she just grabbed it and put it in the pocket of her jacket, which it kind of just goes to show. That's why I wanted to do a little bit of that setup of who she was, because it shows that her brain is not. She's obviously doesn't know what she's doing because she's willingly killing somebody and taking people. Like it's just, it's awful.
I would say she probably knew what she was doing. But
Well, I mean, I'm sure she knew what she was doing, but the idea that I don't even know where I was going with that.
I don't either. Look, she's insane.
No, she's completely insane. But it's like she's insane enough to be able to go and do that, which is the problem.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyways, when Christa got back to the dorms, instead of keeping quiet or trying to hide anything, she decided to tell all of her friends, and she even showed off the skull fragment.
Of course.
Yeah. So the next day, an employee of Job Corp was walking on the property and saw what he thought was a pile of animal remains. However, as he got closer, he was shocked to find an actual body. So with the rumors going around school, as soon as the police got to the school, they knew where to go first. First checking the logbooks, the police saw that the 4 left together. However, only the 3 of them arrived. Then they went and took all 3 teens in for questioning and started to search their rooms. And in the search, the police were interested to find a satanic Bible and an altar into Daryl's room. And then they found some other stuff in Christa's room, including the fragment of skull in her jacket pocket. So when questioned, Christa confessed to the murder, but she insisted that it was an accident, telling them that they were only trying to scare her and it got out of control. Which,
then you wouldn't have.
How do you go
a
out
meat
of control
cleaver.
to kill someone?
Yeah, but also you wouldn't
Exactly.
have brought the tools to. Like,
Yeah.
Okay, stupid child.
Like it was premeditated.
Yeah.
You knew what you were doing.
Yeah.
So she also told the police, and I have it in quotes, I said, "Colleen, do you know who's doing this to you?" And she was just going, I told her to shut up. So basically, she asked Colleen if she knew who was attacking her. Colleen couldn't talk, and she told her to shut up and kept doing it. So
That's lovely.
Christa eventually gave them a play-by-play of where she dumped some of the evidence and retraced her steps, giving them all of the information.
Which I'm sure she was probably proud in telling them.
Oh,
all
for
this
sure.
shit. Yeah,
For sure.
Fucking asshole.
So Christa and the others were obviously arrested and charged with murder and conspiracy to commit murder. So on March 22nd, 1996, the trial began. And really there wasn't much to prove Christa innocent because she told them everything and she had pieces of her skull and all this. So after 2.5 hours of deliberation, the jury came back with a guilty verdict on both counts. So on March 30th, Christa was sentenced to 25 years for conspiracy of murder. And then she was also sentenced to death by electrocution for the murder of Colleen. On the other hand, Daryl was given life with the possibility of parole.
Okay.
And Shadola received probation after pleading guilty for being an accessory after the fact.
Probation.
Yes.
Probation.
Because she was the lookout. She didn't do anything.
She looked out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I saw a lot of different things saying because Christa was already 18, they thought we could go after her for as an adult.
Yeah.
Daryl was 17, so they gave him a lesser sentence because of that.
And what state was this in?
Tennessee.
Okay, because this is interesting because it makes me think of what we were watching last night, which was that New York City homicide show that we're watching. And they talked about that in New York, that if you're even there, you're not the one who committed like actually killing somebody, but you were there at the scene, you are charged with the same.
Yeah,
like,
which
it's
you
all charged
should.
the
I
same,
mean,
which I
you
completely
aren't
agree.
stopping it. You were
you're
actively helping for it.
Yeah, like that was your job.
Yeah,
Was to look
and
out.
I didn't see anything anywhere that's made it sound like she thought like she had to, or that she would be threatened,
she's
or
an
that
asshole.
she'd be hurt. No, she did it. So I think probation for something like that is getting off
and
easy
if you're
for sure.
and if you're out there, you are a murderer. Done.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyway, so in 2002, Christa, against her lawyer's advisement, asked the courts to drop her appeals, and she sought to be executed, which Judy Mary Beth Leibowitz, granted, and scheduled the execution date for August 19th, 2002. However, on July 8th, Christa changed her mind and filed a motion to allow the appeals process to continue, which was denied, except on August 2nd, A state appeals court panel of 3 different judges ruled that they should continue with the appeals process, and she was not executed. So just like a handful of days before she was actually supposed to be executed. So throughout the years, Christa's attorney tried to appeal the conviction, and every time they were denied. By 2020, the Tennessee Attorney General Herbert Slaherty requested the Tennessee Supreme Court to set an execution date. However, because of COVID, Christa's lawyers were able to get an extension by the court, allowing them more time. And there was some other stuff where they tried to appeal some more, and it was denied. So currently, Christa is still on death row, awaiting her execution date for murder that happened in 1995.
Wow.
Yeah. So I have some facts, interesting facts in here. Most of them are quotes. So Christa was once quoted after the murder saying, "I had more than my fair share of trauma growing up, and I realized that," I knew you were going to shake your head at that, "and I realized that so many others that didn't commit violent crimes." Wait, let me re-say that. I just messed that sentence up. "I had more than my fair share of trauma growing up, and I realized that so many others have that didn't commit crimes.
Yes.
Didn't commit violent crimes.
Yeah.
I don't use that or anything else as an excuse for what I did. There is no excuse for what I did. I take full responsibility for my actions and regret everything that happened that night. If I could take it all back, I would. And not only to get myself out of prison. I know that's what a lot of people assume. I've already spent a lifetime in here, and I have no expectations of ever leaving these fences. That's not what it's about. I only want my situation to be looked at now through the eyes of logic instead of anger and unanswered, instead of anger, and answered the question of if I deserve to die for a crime committed by 3 people. I'm not even close to being the same person I was over 25 years ago." Which, I mean, yes. However, you've also been in prison, and you couldn't really continue to be that person.
Yeah, but it's also a really interesting response because I would agree that you are one of 3.
Yes.
And this kind of goes into that the death penalty debate as well. But I feel like I'm actually happy to hear that, to be like, I went through my fair share of trauma. Like, so did I, and I'm not murdering anyone.
Exactly.
In general. Well, not in general. I've never murdered anyone.
But she's also not using it as that crutch to be like, that's why I did
like
this.
She's not. Like she's actually identified, and that sounded really just.
I'm assuming this was like years after. I didn't say when.
The only thing I don't like is her saying, like, I want people to think of this logically. What you did was not logic.
No.
Like,
so how could anybody think of that
and
logically?
I feel like people are absolutely allowed to be angry.
Yeah.
And act out of anger, especially the person's family who you killed.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
It's a difficult thing.
Yeah. With that, the last fact I have is a letter she wrote to Daryl after sentencing, which is completely different and interesting. So I'll say that one last.
Okay.
So I have 2 more before that. So again, I mentioned a site called Mercy for Christa. It's basically a support site that talks about how when you're that young, the brain development in some with adolescent brain damage paired with the untreated mental health conditions to be taken into consideration. They also say that her lawyers failed to present any of that evidence in pertaining to her past trauma, which may have played a role in the murder.
Sure.
So it's basically a support group group that was created to help Christa get her sentencing changed. And there's like, not polls, but a list that you can submit your name to help with the movement and whatever, which it's the first time doing anything like this that I saw that for a murderer. Which I thought was interesting. Now, I get the idea that this trauma and having mental health issues and whatever could be important in cases like this. But I thought it was interesting, and it made me think of that saying, like, are murderers born or made?
Yeah.
And like, for me, I think she was, I think, in a sense, born because of the trauma that she was induced before she was even born.
I mean,
but yet she was
storm.
bred into abuse. And does that play a role? And I think it's an interesting thing to think about. However, it's still not okay that she did it.
Her environment also, I think, contributed too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So another interesting fact, in 2001, she was a part of another attempted murder while she was in prison, which I think it's the parallels of her story, because there's pieces where you're like, I might feel a little bad, but then you did this shitty thing. And so she was a part of another attempted murder while she was in prison, which she was charged first-degree attempted murder. And allegedly she was recorded saying, I wrapped that shoestring around her and tried to choke the ... life out of her. She was passed out on the ground, mama, twitching, foaming at the mouth. Her eyeballs was bulging out so far, her eyelids were flipped up.
Okay.
So she got sentenced and charged for that. So, okay, so this last one is a letter that she wrote to Daryl right after the murder. She put, Hi, love. I just want you to know how much I love you. I have 10 months left to live. Imagine that. I'd spend every moment with you if I could. Baby, I want you to tell them you lied in your statement and go along with mine, okay? Please write me. I miss you so much. You see what I get for trying to be nice to that hoe? I went ahead and bashed her brains out so she'd quickly die instead of letting her bleed to death, and they fucking fry me. Ain't that some shit? Please write me and tell me what you're feeling. Also, tell your lawyer if he wants me to testify for you, I will. Love you for the rest of my life, little devil.
Wow.
So that gives some perspective of her mindset right after the murder.
I hate her.
Yeah. So Christa's a see you next Tuesday. I almost just went with
you
it.
just stopped.
I did.
She's a cunt. That's
Christa's a cunt. So
yeah. Wow.
That is the story of the only woman on Tennessee's death row.
It's a good one, bub.
Yeah.
Damn.
There you have it.
All right. Well,
you ready for yours?
fuck you, Christa.
Yeah, fuck you, Christa.
Yeah, I'm ready. Hello.
Hello.
Okay.
I said hello, darling.
Hello, darling. Well, hello. Okay, so my story today has a title, and it is titled A Weirdo Satanist Named Moises. Moises.
That reminds me of like...
Moist.
Oh, no. I was going to say it reminds me of The Marvelous Miss Maisel. Was it one of the characters named Moises?
Oh, maybe. I don't remember. Probably. Sounds like it. Now that's ringing a bell. Yes.
Oh, it's ringing a bell.
Ding, ding, ding. A weirdo Satanist named Moises. Okay, so it was February 4th of 2011 when an 18-year-old walked into the Huntington Park Police Department to report a crime. He quickly confessed that he had killed his mother, then put her body in a freezer in the home they shared in Maywood.
Oh, that forthcoming.
Hours earlier, his cousin had arrived at his apartment after he called her to have her pick him up. They left, ate, and then she began asking him, I can't talk. Let's rewind. They ate. Nope. They left, ate, and then she began asking him if everything was okay. Things just seemed a bit off. She wanted to make sure that he was okay because his girlfriend had actually passed away recently from a car accident. So she was like checking in general. He was pretty hesitant in responding and kind of started saying some stuff and then said like some things happened. So she was like, okay. She dug in a little bit more and he confessed that he had killed his mom. After explaining what he did, his cousin took him to the police station, which is where he went to the Huntington.
Good for you,
Park
cousin.
Police. So this is actually the story of Moises Meraz-Espinoza, an 18-year-old who prosecutors described as a Satan worshiper who brutally killed his mother in the spring of 2011.
How weird. We both picked 18-year-olds.
I know. I didn't know that you had an 18-year-old.
That's really weird.
I know. So one of the things that I want to mention is that I found a lot of my information from a podcast that is out there that you can listen to, and you should. It's called Juror Number 8 Podcast, and it is a 5-part series of this specific case.
So they like go pretty deep into it.
They do, but it's actually a podcast that's done by a stand-up comedian. His name is Matt Walker, and he does it with Stephen Kramer Glickman. And they actually host another show called The Nighttime Show, where they interview celebrities and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. So they're pretty well known. The interesting thing is that they're in LA. This case was in was in California, and
close. They're so close.
Yeah, Matt Walker, the stand-up comedian, was juror number 8 on
interesting
this case.
Oh, that's
Isn't
really
that
interesting.
Fucking cool. So he ended up.
Hence the name.
Correct. But it's also like there is also juror number 8 in a play in 12 Angry Men. And so when I was like looking stuff up, I'm like, why does this keep pulling up? And that was why. But anyway, so juror number 8 podcast. And if you just go to like juror number 8 podcast, I think.com, you can listen to it there, but it's on like all streaming platforms. But go listen. It's actually really interesting to hear it from the perspective of a juror.
Yeah.
As well.
That's really interesting.
Anyway, with that, let me dive in. This is a quick one because there's not a lot of, like, it's just not, I don't know. The case is interesting. And like the reason that juror number 8 podcast was so good was because it's from his perspective.
Yeah.
Which is like jury selection all the way into like deliberations and conviction or whatever. So really cool. But I don't have a lot. So this guy, Moises, so there's some information on like his childhood, but really it's just that his mom and dad divorced. But his mom and dad had the relationship where his dad still kind of really took care of his mom in general. So he would like pick her up and take her to work and all this kind of stuff, which I thought was really compelling and interesting. Moises did not have a great relationship with his mom, clearly. So I'm going to jump right to the murder because
you're just going right in.
It's really interesting. So anyway, February 2nd, 2011. So Moises was a Satanist. Like he had the Bible, the book of, what is it? Well, there's a couple of things. So he loved the band King Diamond, which King Diamond isn't like a Satanist band. It's just a heavy metal band. But a lot of which in that genre, a lot of the music is
it lends itself to the Satan crowd.
Sure.
The Satan crowd.
The Satan crowd. Satan?
Satan.
I don't know. Not Satan. Wait, whatever. Okay. So
Sleuts for Satan.
Sleuts for Satan. So anyway, he was very much into that kind of genre, and then he had a Bible, like the Satan Bible, the satanic. I can't even fucking say it at this point. Satanic Bible. So he had that and all this kind of stuff. So So that day, Moises gets into a fight with his mom. Her name was Amelia Espinoza. She was 42 years old. So they're arguing, and I think that the argument kind of ends, but not well. So he goes and starts blasting music by the band King Diamond, which was his favorite, and grabbed a rope, walked up to his mom, and just strangled her to death. Yeah. He was like, I'm done.
Just that easy.
Done here. So he strangles her to death. Trigger warning. Here's where shit gets fucked up. So he then decided, I'm not done here. So he covers the bathroom shower floor walls with plastic.
Oh no.
And
this isn't going to end nicely.
Gets box cutters and knives and starts to fillet her skin and skin her. And then he cuts her into a whole bunch of pieces, moves her fingers and her toes, and starts placing pieces into a freezer that was just in the living room, which I think is bizarre. And I'll dive into that a little bit more because I'm going to describe the crime scene.
This seems like this happened so effortlessly.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, agreed. He then peeled. Okay.
He then, when you start a sentence with he then peeled.
Like, peeled is such a horrible word.
That is, I don't want to know what he peeled.
Like you peel a banana, right? But this is horrible. So he cuts off her head and peels the skin off of her head, removing all the contents.
We should have said trigger warning there.
I did. Trigger warning throughout this entire thing. He then carved upside down crosses into her skull.
Oh my gosh.
He then placed her skull into a backpack, carrying it around for the next 2 days.
What?
So, yeah.
Like carried it around with him?
Yep. So that's just the murder in general, right? So the murder is like gruesome and brutal and whatever. So from that podcast, obviously he had Matt had like this view, obviously into the crime scene as a juror because you have photos and all this kind of stuff. It is horrible. Ugh. So I'm going to describe kind of a little bit here.
Gosh.
So
this is
obviously, I know. So he turned himself into the police station. He confessed literally within 2 days. And so they, of course, locked him up. And so at the start of this trial, the judge is like, This is a very graphic. Like, please be prepared because this is going to be quite graphic.
Oh my God, I couldn't imagine having to look at all of those.
No. So I'm going to describe the crime scene in general. So the crime scene, full-size freezer on the floor of the living room that was unplugged and laying on its back. It's really bizarre, but just imagine that in some apartment so that it's in the middle of the, okay.
Yeah.
There's blood everywhere. It is a very, very messy crime scene. So the shower was covered in blood.
Oh my God.
There were plastic tarps, like places with blood. There was an electrical circular saw found with pieces of bone,
Oh my God.
blood, and flesh stuck to the blade. They found skin and muscles and additional body parts stored in plastic bags in the freezer. The freezer was not plugged in.
What was the point of it just as like using it as a trunk? Like,
No. So images in the trial showed gruesome photos of body parts that were being cataloged. So this jury had to sit through photos of, like, he even describes like them holding up a toe and him being like, oh my God, that's a toe. So very interesting. And it was like cleanly cut, like just horrible. So anyway, that backpack had her skull in it. And as I said, he had peeled all the skin away. He removed all the teeth, the eyes, like everything.
oh my God,
It was
this
an
is
empty
disgusting.
skull. And he actually, I know, he
How,
actually,
how anybody
and that's his
can
mom.
do any of that? Like,
Yeah. So he also talked about like the skull looked like he was like it was clear that there was like still some blood on it, but it was like a clean it was just a skull.
yeah.
And so and then he of course had carved those upside down crosses into the skull as well. Now the narrative of the satanic stuff was really pushed here because, when he was gotten in prison, he got a tattoo of the same upside down cross on his neck.
Oh, that's great.
But and then of course they found a copy of the Satanic Bible at the scene too.
Yeah.
But the logo of the band King Diamond is also an upside down cross. So they really pushed this narrative, which I'll go over a little bit into the satanic stuff because it makes sense, especially with like carving upside down crosses in your mom's skull.
Like that's just
it's crazy. But then there was also
That's awful.
there was also a part that he described it, and I won't go too into it, but it was like her hip section where her private parts are, and he took all that out, so it was just this gaping hole. It's awful. Like it's pretty fucking awful. So anyway,
It's terrifying.
Yeah, the thing to note here is that there were no internal organs recovered. No clue where they are. None.
No,
Like none.
that's
It was
that's weird. And he never
body
admitted to
parts,
what he
no,
did with it.
No. So during the trial, they brought in a satanic expert. So he did this on February 2nd, and there's a significance to that date. And it's a satanic holiday that's called Candlemas, I guess. And it's the halfway point between winter solstice and spring equinox. Basically, they said that you need to commit sacrifices on that day.
Oh, cool.
So the
Yeah, that sounds
expert
fun.
states that his mom was likely a human sacrifice
And like,
to like meet that. You know.
and there was like no rationale behind why it was just
No. Yeah. So the music that he was obviously
Moises.
listening to was satanic, according to an expert. They also found his hard drive, and he had Google searches that were like satanic rituals, Satanism, images of album covers depicting the same stuff. He looked up human sacrifice, and then he would also look at the lyrics of the King Diamond songs, which also were like similar to those searches too, in general. So
I feel like some people shouldn't have access to be able to search things like that.
yeah, I mean, the internet's a crazy place.
It's for sure.
But so ultimately, they get in a fight. He decides to kill her, and then he just literally mutilates the shit out of her body. It carries around her skull for a few days. He had his like other bones of hers, like he had her bones in a bag or something, and it's wild. And but when his cousin kind of came and picked him up, it was. He went in and confessed in general.
It's such a weird story. Just like he's like, okay, I guess I'll go in and tell them.
Yeah. So Moises, and he does, like he just goes and like divulges it. Or
Like it's
whatever,
nothing.
basically. Yeah. And so, again, like this was a quick one, but I was like, this is really fucked. And the interesting thing about this other podcast, which I encourage you to go listen to for sure, Juror Number 8 podcast, the verdict, the Los Angeles County Superior Court judge was Thomas McNew Jr. He actually is quoted as saying that the slaying, quote, certainly ranks up there at the top of the most disgusting, hideous, and vulgar cases that he has seen in 50 years. In legal profession. So
I couldn't imagine anything.
Yeah.
Worse.
So Norwalk Superior Court jury deliberated just over a day. So again, Matt was a part of that deliberation. And of course, they found him guilty of first-degree murder, and he was sentenced to 25 years to life in prison. Which is interesting. So, yeah, again, really not like a huge thing. There was a lot of information.
That was a
in
quick
general,
but really fucked up one.
I know. Well, and just like, the photo, like I don't even know. Like it was,
right?
I was reading it and I'm like, this is just gross.
It's awful.
Like it's gross.
Like it just is. I mean, I don't think there's really any reason to kill anybody, but this is like, why would you? The whole idea of not just killing, but taking the body apart and doing stuff with that is like killing is one thing.
And it's his mom.
That is another level. That is like, there's something absolutely wrong with the situation and with him.
Totally.
And like, I don't get how somebody could go that far.
Like, and I think teenagers in general don't love their parents, right? Because it's just like adolescence is a wild time. So and apparently she was like, she did not like that he listened to the music and was like getting into this Satanistic shit in general. But to like go and murder your mom and then literally tear her body apart.
It's terrifying.
And where are her organs?
Right? Like, what did you do?
What the fuck did you do? And it's interesting because
it's not like a Jeffrey Dahmer situation.
I don't know. Who knows? But the defense definitely kind of threw this narrative, or somebody was throwing the narrative around that he didn't do it alone. Because I think it was the defense. They were kind of like, he was 18. So like, how did he know the like precision to like fillet? They literally said he filleted her, which is fucking
like he knew what he was doing when he was cutting her apart.
And just all of that kind of stuff. And it's like, okay, I mean,
but I mean, if he's already looking stuff up online, that's totally something that I'm sure he could look up online.
Yeah,
not necessarily how to flay a human, but to do that to another animal, which he can then do to somebody else.
Sure. And I don't even know. I don't know where. I don't know. I mean, it was just kind of terrifying and really gross. And, it was interesting too, because they mentioned atheism and like how a lot of people align atheism with Satanism. Yeah. And I thought that was really interesting, but even like, I guess the church of, or whatever, of like the Satanists are like, human sacrifice is actually not a part of it.
Yeah.
In general. And, I thought that was kind of interesting, and it made me start thinking about like, okay, atheism compared to being agnostic, to being like a Satanist, to being like a Christian. And it's interesting, kind of this ideology that travels. These well,
there's a lot of parallels with it all.
There are, and it was just kind of, my mind starts to go to like, what was he thinking? Like, what was like, do people? It's like murder is such a permanent end. And like, do these people realize that? I don't, and maybe they just love. I don't know. It's fucking crazy. Reading this insane. One, I was like, there's just not a lot of like stuff here or backstory or anything else to like add into this, and just like, this is what happened. In general. But I do think that the tie-in with Matt Walker and Stephen Kramer, Glickman, who did this. Matt really is who drove the podcast with Stephen responding. But it was really compelling to kind of hear him talk about it. And the episodes aren't that long. It's like 15 to 20 minutes. And I think that there's 6. And he like goes through like the jury selection process to like the trial. Like it's actually it was really cool to listen to. I listened to it all. And I didn't take too much from him. Because I encourage you to go listen to it, because it was really interesting. You can do it in one day, like I did. And it was just really, yeah, well done. But also really, really interesting to hear it from the perspective of
Oh,
a
yeah.
juror.
Yeah.
And because I've gotten called to jury duty a lot, but I've never served. I haven't had
Oh,
to.
no, I haven't either.
Yeah. So to be like into this one and be like, oh, here's this fucked up murder.
Right.
Is like,
And getting, like, living your life and getting thrown into this. And then all of a sudden you're seeing these awful images.
well, he
and-
said that the images like have burned in his brain.
Oh, I'm sure.
And I can only imagine.
It's just the U.S. government traumatizing people.
I know. Well, he said that like it was interesting to hear his perspective too, because he loves heavy metal. Like he could kind of, I wouldn't say sympathize, but
Relate to a
understand
degree.
how maybe it wasn't totally satanic in his opinion, which I thought was really interesting. But he was like, at one point he was like, they played the song and he was like, oh, I need to make sure that I'm not like
Jamming to it.
liking this song or whatever, because this, whatever. And I'm like, fuck, man, that's interesting. But it was a really interesting one. Again, a quick story.
Yeah. That was a good one, though.
Yeah, like brutal and awful and disgusting, and like don't do that to people. I don't know.
I mean, just don't kill anybody.
Yeah. Jesus.
Life lessons. Don't kill anyone.
I love how at the top of the show we were just like a hot ass mess, and now we're both like, wow.
I wouldn't say we.
Oh. Well, I think that I could agree with that. Yeah, that one was wild. So, episode 18. Dang. Fuck Satan, eat a banana. Wait, what was it again? Fuck Satan, eat a banana. Why am I like this?
I don't know. I ask myself that all the time, but I signed up for it. So.
I could fit into I had a bad childhood and I have trauma and it's made me
Well,
weird.
let's not murder anybody, though.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that.
Please.
Yeah, I'm not going to do any of that. Like ever. I think
I hope not.
I think I'm all right. Right? Like, do you?
I mean, so far.
You better figure out how you answered that real quick. Just kidding. No, I think that, listen, I think it's worth saying that I do think that traumas impact you for sure.
Oh, 100%.
There are
they
certainly
do.
things that I do have a hard time when I see other people with parents, because I don't have them. I have a hard time with trust and love for sure. It takes me a while to get to those places, and it can be hard. So I do think that that traumas can impact you they impact you for your life.
Oh, 100%.
They're lifelong things. But you do have a choice in how you live your life and how you respond
And you react.
to those. Yeah. And therapy is incredibly important, I think. And being transparent and addressing your shit. Because there was a time when there were some actions that I was like, oof, you need to quit that. And I started calling myself out and being, like, stop doing that.
Yeah.
Like, and humiliating myself.
you
Being
did
like,
the
I'm so
work.
sorry I did this. Let me backtrack. And really it was just like kind of having elaborate stories in general, which is a common thing for kids for attention. So yeah, I think that, while I do believe, kind of going back into this Christa chick, right? Christa. Like things do impact you, but you do have a choice to be like, let me choose to live a different life. And I have a hard time often with even people who are related to me that talk about their traumas. And I'm like, okay, I get it. Believe me. Like you can decide to not let it impact you.
Yeah.
And work through your
But
shit.
it's something hard to do when you don't feel like you have the support to do it.
I would agree with that.
But again, you have to be your own advocate and find that
Yeah,
support.
and
at
honestly,
times as well.
oftentimes you won't have the support in general. Like you won't.
Yeah.
So I didn't at all. And there's often times that I don't even let the support in.
Yeah.
If I do have it. So yeah, I decided when because I got kicked out when I was 18, and from my adopted family. And then, I just kind of chose to
Figure it out.
focus on not wanting to live a life or certainly live within the circumstances that I was given. So, and now here I am. I think in general, I've had some shit along the way, always will. And believe me, it sucks abandonment sucks a lot. The feeling of that never goes away. It's really difficult. And it definitely can come out in certain ways. But I think that every human has the capacity to work through some stuff and to live the life that they want. I do
agree.
think things impact for sure. And there's definitely inequalities that impact that too. Like when people find out I'm a former foster child, they get weird. Like when they find out like there was sexual abuse in my past, they get weird. And I get it,
which is just so ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree, and I understand, but
I don't.
It's uninformed. Yeah,
yeah.
Like you're like,
it's people just not doing the work to understand what any of that is.
And sometimes it's vanity. I think people like are in the industry or working with. Like I was at a former. There was an organization here in Tampa that I was on the board of, and they were horrible. And they were not acting in the best interest of what I felt were the kids in the system. And instead, it was a vanity. It's a vanity organization.
Yep.
They have a lot of money.
It's
and they're
that
not
white
doing much
savior
work.
complex.
Well, and when I was in a board meeting and was trying to diversify the board and had to explain white privilege and then find out that I offended everybody by explaining that, I'm like, yeah, that's about you, not me, for sure. But yeah, it's interesting that I just wish that we had the right people to be able to help people understand the power that they actually have to control their own narrative. So, and that was serious.
That was serious.
It was like a hot ass mess at the top of the show, and then we were like, here's some therapy.
Brought back to them to life.
I know.
Therapy with Kevin.
Fun. Therapy with Kevin. Trauma bonding with Kevin. We should have a segment in trauma bonding with Kevin. If you have some traumas, share them with us. We would love to know. What is your trauma? Isn't that a line in a movie?
Probably.
What is her trauma? I don't remember. Anyway. Yeah. So, episode 18. What's episode 19? Do we know yet?
We've gone back and forth on a few things.
Show have.
Well, I guess you all will have to listen next week to
find
out. And hopefully it'll be on the right day.
Maybe. But please, again, subscribe to our YouTube channel if you like watching us on video. If you follow us or if you listen to us on any of the podcast platforms, please follow.
Yeah.
Download, rate, review. Be our friend.
Tell us how much you love us on Apple.
Yes. And we are on social media. So we do have a TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and
Homocide, the podcast.
Yeah, I think we have a Twitter.
We do have a Twitter.
I think we ended up putting that up on there.
Yeah, I was like, maybe some Republicans will want to listen to this.
Unlikely.
Twitter's not just for politics and porn; it's for
that's what I
Homocide,
use it for.
The podcast.
Wherever you're on, please give us a follow and share your stories with us.
Yeah,
and say hello. And if not, that's fine too. So, yeah. Thanks for following us along on this journey, and have a great day.
Yes. Have a great day.
Goodbye.
Bye.